What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter. Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet.
وما زالت تقتل طفلا كل دقيقتين.
It's the deadliest disease there's ever been.
Front of a house. It's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is we're seeing more properties like this being built. Let's do some stuff. Talk to you later. Bye. I'm here today with Ruben the Cuban. How you doing today, Ruben?
I'm doing well, Dan. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me here.
Excellent, excellent. So in these chance encounter videos, what we do is we go through the motivation to be a part of an apartment complex deal, co-GP or otherwise. And then we actually talk about the role that you take. But the first thing we usually do is we get you to introduce yourself. So can you please introduce yourself for the audience?
Well, yes, Dan. Good morning, and I hope everybody's doing well. My name is Ruben Ruban. I'm with SVN, but moved down to Miami a couple years ago from Chicago. In Chicago, everybody called me Ruben the Cuban for the last 20 years, and moved down to Miami. There's a lot of Rubens, a lot of Cubans, but it's still sticking around. So everybody say, "Hey, Ruben the Cuban around here." They're liking it. A couple of my other investors have said, "Now you're in your element. You're in Miami." So.
Right. That's good stuff. All right. So let's take a look over at this presentation. So the question is, for any investor, I'm trying to find the motivation. And one of the problems that you run into is that people don't know what role they're going to have, but they do know their motivation. So there are 5 different motivations I have. The first one is that they're eager to preserve their purchasing power. In other words, they're afraid that inflation is going to erode it, and then the party is going to be over. The second reason is my reason, which is that I am switching from being a high earner in salary, in income, in tech, and I'm switching it to putting work towards gaining wealth instead, because the biggest reason is that income tax, that intermediate step, it's a big one, and you lose a lot just from that process. So the next reason why people want a part of an apartment complex deal is because they want to fast track their retirement, so they have some sort of capital to work with, but they recognize that if you get educated, then especially if you're on the smarter side, you can probably outperform the banks, because they can encourage incompetence at banks. But the next reason is if you're super duper ambitious, you want to buy your entire whole town, you have to have some sort of skyscraper with your name on it or something like that. And basically for the other co-GPs, that means that this person is going to be moving and shaking until they drop. And so they're a good person to have in the fold, those super duper ambitious and hard workers. The next one, or the last one, is that they have some sort of social cause, like an irrational need outside of just squeezing every cent of profit out of the property and the business. So they're trying to help out a certain sector of society or something like that. So those are the 5 different reasons. Out of those, what combination of them really best describe where you're at as far as motivations?
I would say I've been an entrepreneur since a little kid, so the whole trading time. So how should I say, not working on the clock is definitely one, and building for retirement. I guess, although I have a theory that I never really retire. Most of my mentors are always going, and what I've noticed, most people that retire, just kind of find themselves looking for something to do. And if you look at a lot of, again, my mentors, they're well into their 70s and 80s, and they may not be swinging deals every day, but they're definitely in the game, and they like to keep their finger on the pulse and be active in one way or the other. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess, but I like their kind of retirement because they can do that from a boat or from a beach somewhere around the world. Especially now with technology, you can be literally anywhere and
Hmm.
still be involved.
Right, right. I can definitely relate as well because, me being in tech, I've got fantastically soft hands. And I know that that is not going to change when I'm in my 70s or 80s or anything like that. I'm sure they're in the same boat. It's like, okay, well, it's not like you're sitting there, picking up cinder blocks and like
Right,
all
right,
that
right,
sort
right.
of stuff, right? It's like saying like, oh, does this deal sound good to you? Yes or no? Oh, it's such labor. But
Yeah.
speaking
Well,
of which, go ahead.
it's funny you should say that because I have some guys that some of my investor guys that they're old school guys. Like if you can't explain a deal on one sheet of paper, it's not even worth looking at it. So he's having literally, a sip of rum and a cigar, and he'll look at it. He'll just look at the summary and then make sense or no, and then move on. Some other
Right.
guys they want to get into the whole spreadsheet and get a little more detailed, but it all starts with that one sheet of paper. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. All right, so the next segment of this show that I usually do is I go through the 6 different roles that somebody can have in a co-GP situation for an apartment complex. So me personally, I'll start with mine. I'm a repositioner. That means I have to look at a whole bunch of different properties and come to the conclusion, hey, this one actually has some upside, or hey, I can make this one work. Now, the repositioner sometimes has an entire staff of acquisitions people, cold callers and whatnot. But that's what a repositioner does. And I think that it's important to mention to the audience that even when you're not in the hottest real estate market in history, which we are right now,
Right.
you still have, it's such a competitive industry and mature industry that you shouldn't assume that a property can make more money than it does, or at least you shouldn't assume that you can raise rents because they probably would if they could. But one of the ways you can be sure that there's an upside is to get a contractor. You fix it up, you make some nice amenities or something like that. So they get the contractor and then you get a much nicer place so you can charge higher rent. But there's a problem. If you're a repositioner like me from the internet, then you need somebody to actually run the joint. Okay. So that's your operations. Okay. So when a toilet gets clogged, when the books need to be done, when distributions need to be made, when it comes to, I was talking to a supplier of smart products, and what he was saying was quite interesting because he was talking about if there's some sort of disaster like a pipe bursts or something like that, you can use smart devices to shut them off way faster than a human could, even if they work on site. So, there's a lot to say about operations other than just, putting it at like a toilet with a bunch of Benjamins going down the toilet there. But the other important thing is to make sure that when you have your operations guy, that you're not getting them to do your contracting, because that's a formula for making sure that nothing is square.
Yeah.
But but another thing about operations and the contractors, if I'm from the internet, I can't be flying down all the time to keep an eye on them. Of course, we can get a nice data plan so that they can bring their phone and I can see what's going on. But it's much better to have a local, in other words,
Yep.
boots on the ground. And then through those, you've got basically the operations and the running of the building. The only thing's missing is the money. So you go to the financier, you go to the bank and say, hey, I got this really sweet deal. Let's make this happen. Now, the problem that newbies will have is the financier say, okay, so that's your team, that's your property. Okay, everything pencils out, but who's your sponsor? And they'll be like, you're who in the what now? Your sponsor. That's somebody
Hmm.
who has a similar asset. In other words, if you want to buy a 350 unit apartment complex, somebody in the fold has to already own a 350 unit apartment complex, or they won't get the loan. And then you also have to have in your KPGP group, you have to have a net worth equal to or greater than the value of the loan. So if you have all 6 of those, boom, you have an apartment deal. So if somebody is looking to co-GP with you or do an apartment deal with you, which sides of this die would you be helping out in?
Well, I'm not an engineer, although I've worked with a lot of GCs throughout the years, and I find myself near and dear to the GCs, probably because we like to drink beer and rum and cigars, but still, I'm more on the finance side, and then the searching, the researching. My background's in brokerage,
Mhm.
commercial
Yeah.
real estate, and so I do a lot of site selection for large, different investors and so forth, and then we put the team together. So on the investment, repositioning and that sort of side, that part of the, to go to your day there, that does the GP part of it, part of that team. That's really where I kind of come in. I'm not the guy that sits there and with the spreadsheet also and analyzes every little last dot, but I know what the outcome and what it looks like, and if it looks well, if it looks, that we could present that to other investors or the bank side, that'd be great.
All right, awesome. So the next question that I generally have is the buy box. Since you are actually actively interested in properties, I ask, what can you describe the property that's the best fit for you? In other words, the type of property where you'd have to think the least before you go in on it, assuming the numbers aren't a disaster.
Right. Well, I actually enjoy and really, I really like the development. So ground up development stuff. So again, going back to just a site that might be in a growing market for a multifamily project, is really kind of like, how to say, that's what I wake up. That's what gets me out of bed every morning, that kind of deal. The repositioning of an existing one is great, and I love, and there's some really good guys out there doing that really well. And I think but there's probably more people looking to do that, how they call, the value add, whatever that really means to a person. Some people think it's just value add by putting some paint on the wall, and also now they could charge more rent. But I like coming to the market and or getting to know the market really well and say, hey, there's still growth, and then especially as we all know, the population is growing, so we still need more places and people to live. So building something out of the ground that fits the market to a, I use the avatar that I got that from Rod Santomassimo. It's like, who's your target audience? Who's your person that you're looking to live there? So you build your avatar and say, hey, this is going to be for the millennial or younger folks that may need smaller square footage in an apartment, but they like the amenities, and those sort of things. So going through that process and then just kind of putting that deal, it's definitely one of the reasons I've lost most of my hair and I have all this gray stuff, because those deals are kind of a challenge, but I enjoy the challenge.
That's awesome. Now I'm going to close my window because my neighbor started mowing the lawn. Give me a second here. All right. Yeah, that's why I started muting. I'm like, oh crap, don't want that to ruin everything. All right, far out. Okay, and what about unit count? Like what size of property do you generally are you
Well,
happy
I've
with?
I've I've been involved everything from the 8, 9 units all the way up to 220 plus units. I'm not the 220 plus unit. That was just more of an involvement part of a larger team. But probably that I would say maybe 10 to 50. I know that's a big spread, but it all really depends on the market, that kind of thing. But that if it's 10, like, I'm not a big, but here in Miami, there's a lot of 10 plus or 10 to 15 ultra luxury kind of units kind of thing. Or you can get, your average 30, 40 unit. That's a more of a average person type of unit. So
Mhm.
I guess that's more of my sweet spot. It's more of the average guy, not the ultra luxury, kind of small unit count, but ultra luxury.
Mhm.
It's not really a thing. So that's in that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. And the next question is, you get bonus points for alluding to the different roles on the die, but can you describe the perfect person for you to help? Like, who can you help more than anybody else in their next deal out of all these different sides here?
Who can I help? I mean, somebody that is looking for somebody. This part of that die there.
Yeah, just I'm just saying, like, for another deal, it's like, you can definitely help some people more than others. Maybe you can help repositioners because you got deal flow. Maybe you can help contractors because you've always got people who need renovations or something.
Repositioners don't, because deal flow is definitely, again, having the brokerage, or being in the brokerage world as well. Deal flow, I get a good, I have a good vision, or I can see the local market here in Miami. And I also get a lot of national or state and national data. So I can see, hey, what, cap rates are going. I can compare what the per square foot rents are going in certain markets, or have access to a lot of that information. So that helps, definitely helps in analyzing some sort of deal. So definitely if somebody wants to say, hey, what kind of deal, and let's kind of help with the repositioning part of it, to help put this stuff. Again, I've worked with a lot of finance. As I'm not a finance guy, but I do like to talk to investors, especially on the the LP side. Once we put the whole deal together and say, hey, here's a deal available, or kind of structure it with other GPs to get the deal done. So, but really on the repositioning, that's really, I would say, what my forte is.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, what's the best way for somebody to reach out to you? Is it through LinkedIn or?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. I started my own little hashtag about a year ago about Ruben the Cuban. So I'm not sure if that's tracking or whatever, but Ruben, Ruben dot Ruban at svn.com. So again, that's Ruben, Ruben dot Ruban, Ruban at svn.com. So that's my email. You can also reach me directly at 305-639-8541. Again, that's 305-639-8541. Text me, call me, smoke signals, pigeons, whatever.
All right, good stuff. And please do, in the audience, please do take a moment and hit like and subscribe and comment and all that kind of stuff. Anything you can bring yourself to do. The subscribe button is particularly important to me because that means that YouTube will eventually start paying for all of this stuff instead of me. And all it really does is it means that my videos might pop up on your list of suggestions. There's no guarantee. So if you hate my face, that's not necessarily going to mean that you're going to be seeing me all the time, but please do that. And for anybody in the audience who doesn't know me, my background is in e-commerce mass marketing, and I co-GP in apartment complex deals from doing the marketing, doing the operations, anything that my programming or tech background will really help out. And that's what I'm doing. But please do like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Chance Encounters.